I'm
Welcome,
muted.
everyone. I'm so glad you're on. This is Carol Perhinsky, International Director, 2018 to 2019 for Region 6. And we have just about ready to start. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jenna Lee Taylor, who is responsible for this great event. Please join me in welcoming Jenna Lee Taylor, Region 6 Advisor.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited. We are at 184 and counting participants. I am so excited to have everyone here and joining in. Thank you, Carol. I am also here with Jeff Sobel, my co-Region 6 advisor. Everyone say hello to Jeff. Yay. Yes. I have been able to visit several online meetings over the last week and a half, and I've loved seeing the excitement of watching people jump into something new. And while districts have been releasing different resources and FAQs, we wanted to make sure to give everyone access to as much information as possible. And that's why we are here tonight. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. Please make sure that you mute yourself. Our amazing International Director, Carol Perhinsky, is going to be handling the question and answer section of the evening. So please make sure that you are typing your questions into the chat box, and she will be facilitating that section for us. Okay? So we are here to give you techniques and tips, best practices to make the most of your online meeting experience while you're still keeping your club culture and your club identity strong. So to help us with that, presenting this evening is David F. Carr, DPM. He has led online presenters Toastmasters to charter in 2017 and has recently begun organizing mixed online and offline meetings for Club Awesome Toastmasters in Coral Springs, Florida. He is also this year's District 47 Toastmasters webmaster and the founder of the WordPress for Toastmasters project. Let's go ahead and mute everyone so that we can welcome David. Thank you, David.
All right. And yes, I am muting everyone. So you're already seeing some of the unintended joys of online meetings. It can be wonderful in many ways, but there are also very specific challenges that come up that are a little bit different. Now, in a club meeting, you won't typically have, we have 230 people online at the moment. You will not typically have 230 people online. We've tried really hard at online presenters. Our account max is out at 100. We've never quite gotten there. So don't worry about it too much, but you are going to have to, even with a smaller group, you will have to manage it. And you've probably encountered this in work settings too. If you've been on any kind of video conference or even just a phone conference, there is always the person who is, flushing the toilet or something, or they're doing something rude, and they're broadcasting it to everyone. And we don't want that. So we have to be willing to manage it. So I'm going to talk a fair amount about kind of the etiquette of things and how you can manage this more productively. And hopefully you will learn skills in your online meetings, even though many of you are being dragged into this under duress, not because you necessarily wanted to learn how to do online meetings, but your workplace is probably doing some online meetings. Your workplace is probably doing more remote work all of a sudden. And hopefully you'll be able to bring some of those skills home and help your workplace be more productive as well. So this is me. I have a not terribly subtle, let's see. This is me. I am a writer, an editor. and a digital consultant to some extent. This is a not too subtle commercial that you should find my LinkedIn profile. You should tell me where you know me from, and then you should connect with me. I am currently, depending on what day you ask me, I'm either freelance or I'm between jobs. So I'm out there very much hustling for contracts, hustling for all sorts of opportunities. So if you can steer something my way, that would be just lovely. But that's not why you invited me here. I led Online Presenters to Charter in 2017. It was, it was a DTM project among other things. Carol Prahinsky and Phyllis Harmon, who are on the line, were both very instrumental in helping me get this club up and running. And you can go to op.toastmouse.org or just Google Online Presenters Toastmasters and sign up to visit as a guest so that you'll get a sense of how people who've been doing this for a while run a Toastmasters meeting. Somewhat relevant also is the WordPress for Toastmasters project. This is something I've been working on for a number of years, nights and weekends. And again, I'm somebody who writes about technology. I'm an editor in that industry. I'm self-taught as a WordPress programmer. But I saw an opportunity to have club websites that would be better in terms of marketing because they're based on a standard digital publishing platform and could also have some Toastmasters specific features built in. So you can set up a club website using this software. There's also kind of a software as a service thing where you can sign up and have a website on toastmouse.org, which is the same address that Online Presenters was using. Recently, I've done some work on making some of the contest tools that were developed as part of that project separate, and I'll show you some of that a little bit later. I almost took this slide out because I guess a lot of you really aren't in the position of being able to hold mixed online and offline meetings right now. We did this at my home club the other day. I will actually tell you this is harder than doing an 100% online meeting. I think people might tend to expect the opposite, but trying to get all the microphone placement and camera placement in the room so that you can have people participating remotely who feel like full participants, and the people in the room also engaged with anybody who might be presenting on screen. That's actually tougher than doing it when everybody's online and on a level playing field. So it's probably better that you learn it this way and then go to maybe mixed sessions when you get your meeting space back and the coronavirus thing subsides, which we hope will be soon. I don't know that it's absolutely universal, but most of the online clubs that I know of are using this Zoom platform, the same platform that we're using now for their online meetings. This was the New York Times the other day saying everybody is a Zoomer these days. So a lot of people are in that very frequently. It's about $150 a year to get a Zoom Pro account. They do offer a free account, which is normally limited to 40 minutes. A friend of mine posted this screen capture the other day that he was in a free meeting, and when he got to the 40-minute mark, instead of ending the meeting, Zoom popped up this little message saying, here's a gift. We've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meetings. I do not entirely trust this because they have not officially announced that they've lifted the limit for everyone. They have lifted it in some of the hardest hit countries. They've lifted it for K-12 schools and certain other educational institutions. So Zoom is definitely trying to be a good corporate citizen, but they're still in the business to make money. And they're also having additional strain put on their technology infrastructure with all the people who are holding online meetings right now. So I'm sure paying customers come first at some point. And if they say they're giving you a gift, You can't necessarily count on gifts every time. Now, I was telling somebody earlier that another tactic, if you don't have $150 in your budget to spend, or you could do $14.95 per month, particularly if you think it's only going to be for a few months that you'll need this. But if you don't think it makes sense to get a club account, you can organize your meeting into a couple of 40-minute segments. And if the meeting ends after 40 minutes, you tell everybody to be prepared to dial back in after that. So if you organize your agenda right, you make sure it's not going to happen in the middle of somebody's speech, that's probably workable. So a few problems with online meetings. You can't hear, you can't speak, you can't see, or you're hearing and we're broadcasting your sound or broadcasting images that you shouldn't be, that you didn't intend. So you need to try and learn how to get control over all those things. The meeting controls are this little button bar across the bottom in Zoom. Particular importance are the mute and unmute and start and stop video in the lower left-hand corner. We also have a grouping of buttons in the center, the share screen button to do what I'm doing now, sharing a slide, PowerPoint presentation or some other on-screen visual. There's a chat button for sending text messages to people. And there's this tab that says participants that would show you everybody who is in the meeting. Also, when you click that participants panel, one of the options you have, if you're coming in and you're not the person who set up the account, who has the main password, you can click this claim host button and you enter a code and click the claim host button. So this is a good way for clubs to share the control over the meeting with people who need it on a single meeting basis. So you should probably only share the password with a couple of people who absolutely need to have access to the password to be able to go in and change settings or download recordings. There are a few things that you can only do if you have the password. But you can share this code that has to be configured in the settings. You can share that with anybody who you think it would be appropriate to share it with. Typically you might share it with a Toastmaster of the day and maybe one other person. Once you have claimed the godlike powers of meeting host, you can also appoint a co-host. And I've appointed a couple of co-hosts for this meeting so that if I'm not keeping things under control, they can back me up. And I think that's important to have some shared responsibility. So they, for example, can also mute people who haven't muted themselves when they need to, or turn off somebody's video camera as well. There's also, if you look, there's an option under there that says rename. So I could rename the text that appears next to anybody's little video image. Typically, we tell people to rename themselves. And if you're signed in as a regular user, not the meeting host, there's a button on the participants panel for rename. Typically, what we tell people actually is to look for your picture in the gallery view where you can see everybody. You click this little menu with the 3 dots, and you can change your name, or you can put in your meeting role so that people know what role you're filling in the meeting. And that's something that we've gotten more religious about at Online Presenters, is we want everybody who has a role to put that in. It's particularly important for some roles such as the vote counter, so that you can find those people easily in the chat. We do the vote counting by private messaging, as I'll show you in a minute. Another important control in the upper right-hand corner of Zoom, it allows you to switch between the gallery view where you see everybody and the active speaker view where you mainly see the one person who's speaking, and everybody, you have a few extra pictures on the side. You can scroll through those little thumbnail pictures. Lighting is a big deal. Most of you aren't going to get this fancy, but this is my friend Jim Gold. He and his wife Chris have a technology training business. They actually travel around the country in an RV much of the time, giving technology trainings at RV camps and meetups and such. And then they run an online business where people can come for tips on things like how to use their smartphones better, how to do more digital photography. Chris has a book called Mrs. Geek's Guide to Google Photos, I think it is. Anyways, they also do a weekly live show, so they do a lot of online video. And so he set up his whole office with photographic lights bouncing off the walls, so he has direct light and indirect light. You don't have to get this fancy, but think about getting some extra light in whatever space you're going to be participating from. Because if you're in a low light condition, the webcam can't pick up enough of your face, and so your face will look grainy. The picture will look poor. And it becomes even more important if you want to do some of the fancy stuff like virtual backgrounds. You have to have good, strong lighting. Let's see. Timing actually I think is one of the most challenging things that we ran into, particularly at the beginning, until we got some practice with it. So this is using a virtual background as your timing lights, basically. Now you can also do this in a more low-tech way. You can get green, yellow, and red cards, and you can hold them up to the webcam as you get to those points in your timing. Another little detail about lighting, though, is sometimes the difference between green and yellow may not be distinct enough for people to see it, particularly if they're trying to see it in a little webcam gallery image. The other
David,
thing that yes.
This is Carol. I just want to jump in and say, if people look at my screen, they can see one of my green timing devices. I actually used clovers, and so people know the shape of a clover, and they can see that as my virtual background right now behind me. Now, I did have a question that was asking, do we have to own a green screen? And the answer is no. You can use the virtual background, which is what David was just talking about. I don't know, David, are you planning to show us how to do that?
I'm going to show you a little bit of it. I actually do use a green screen, partly because I'd already purchased one. Mm-hmm. And also the Zoom has a feature where it can do a virtual background without a green screen, but it doesn't work on every computer. I have not gotten it working on my computer.
Okay, it does work on mine, and I am using it.
Okay.
I use it with my students. Not everybody in my class can use it.
Okay.
It's a smaller portion that I would like, but if you have that capability, it would be great to show tonight. If you want me to show it, I can also show it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, actually, why don't you remove your virtual background for a minute so people can see what reality looks like behind you?
Oh, okay. One moment, please. Okay, one moment.
I use a green screen.
Okay. For those of you who want to go, I just clicked on the little caret that's next to my video under the control menu, under the control bar. So the video, there's a little caret next to it. It says virtual background. I choose the virtual background, and now I can go to my background, and now you can see what's behind me. I have a nice, beautiful rug on the wall, and over here I've got other things on the cabinet behind me. All right, if you're Indian, you'll recognize that as a deity of the Indian culture. And I can also put in, you want JPEG, but you can switch to different images, and they must be JPEG. In case you're curious, that is asparagus growing behind me.
Okay.
I'm back to my regular. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we'll show you some more later. But I would tell people not necessarily to get obsessed about thinking that you need to learn all this stuff at the beginning. So, I mean, from what Carol said, it's actually, if your computer has a good enough graphics card and Zoom will do it without the green screen, you can do it fairly easily. But still, I would say everybody should have patience with each other. Everybody who's been thrown into this for the first time should have patience with each other if some of the technical qualities aren't perfect, definitely. The other thing that I want to mention, though, besides how you would show colors, is that people may lose track of these little thumbnail images of the different participants. When you start sharing slides, if you're using slides in your presentation, that stuff all shifts over to the side, and the timer's video may not be one of the things that's included there. So this is another issue that comes up, is that the timer is showing green, yellow, and red, and the speaker is not actually seeing it. So we have also done at times an audible cue. I know when Carol is speaking, she usually has a really dynamite presentation lined up, and she will ask not to have the audible cue because she's going to want that recording of the speech to be as high quality as it can be, and that's great. So we make it the speaker's preference whether they want that interruption, and people have used everything from just saying the word green, yellow, red to tapping on a wine glass or something like that. Another thought is that the speaker might want to have the Toastmasters app do with the timer counting down over to the side, so that they have their own timing device reminding them when they're going long, even though the official meeting timer may be keeping the official record. The speaker can have their own clue, even if they can't see that. So the chat feature is also important. It's used for a number of things. People will post very silly things in the chat. People will post links to important resources. Also, we use it for voting. So I'm showing here how you change from sending a message to everyone. When you open the chat, you can either send a message to everyone or you can send a message to a specific person. And so the person that I asked to be a vote counter, if we needed one tonight, Jim Barber, you should be able to find under AA vote counter, I believe. Yes, AAA vote counter. So the American Automobile Association has sent us a vote counter this evening in case we need one in an emergency. So, these are just little things that help. And Carol is filling a role we call chat monitor, which is somebody who keeps track of what's going on in that chat feed. And if the Toastmaster of the day is distracted with something else, and meanwhile things are going horribly wrong in the meeting, the chat monitor can see that and unmute and say, Mr. Toastmaster, things aren't working. You're sharing the wrong screen is a common one. That kind of thing. So it's just a good support role. Let's see. Okay, and this is how you would set up the virtual background. As Carol said, you click on the little up arrow button next to the video camera, and it will allow you to choose from multiple feeds. So I have an external webcam. I also have a webcam built into my laptop, and I have some virtual cameras. Again, you don't have to get as fancy as I am, but you choose virtual background, and from there you have the option to choose from several images. There are a few that are preloaded, but you can also add an image, as Carol said, that amuses you or that serves a function such as the timing signal. This is one of the things that comes out of the WordPress for Toastmasters project. Is I thought if we were meeting online, we didn't really want to be emailing PDFs back and forth. So I put quite a lot of work into modeling all the Toastmasters evaluation forms as web forms that you can just type your evaluation into. You click submit, and that gets emailed off to the speaker. It also gets archived, so I can go back and look up my old evaluations. and see what I did wrong. This is what our agenda looks like on a weekly basis, because it gets emailed out. It has the Zooming link up top. There's this portion at the beginning of the meeting that we reserve for informal chit chat, but also making sure that people's mics are working, all those technical details. And we have a couple of custom roles. I've already mentioned the chat monitor, which Carol is doing tonight very nicely. But there's also the watcher. Now, my brick and mortar club has a body language monitor. So this is sort of a reimagining of a body language monitor. So watching for what little body language you can fit in the screen here, but also how well you use things like virtual background or SlideShare or what other visual effects. So that's something we do. You know, you can do something different, but just trying to give you an idea of how we've adapted to this format. I've heard a surprising amount of concern. Well, maybe it's not surprising, but you know, a lot of clubs hadn't really finished collecting dues when all of a sudden they couldn't meet in person. They're used to getting a check. So setting up an online method of collecting dues can be a useful thing. For online presenters, it was essential because I can't knock on the door of the Toastmaster in Australia and ask him to hand me a check. So again, the WordPress for Toastmasters software does have some support built in for an online payment service called Stripe that we've done, is what we have used. You can also go to PayPal, use that account to get a little snippet of code and get your webmaster to embed it in the web page, and then that doesn't necessarily need to be WordPress or anything else. But that's what I use. Contests. Contests can be done. I know there's a lot of concern about this, but this is the video speech contest that we did a while ago. And you can see one of the speakers did use slides here. You would see his thumbnail image. For some reason, that's not captured in the recording I'm showing here, or the screenshot of the recording. But other people, including Jim Barber, did choose to stand and give their speech. So that can be done in the online environment. I've been saying that I might suggest that you have somebody to assist you if you're trying to give a stand-up speech and you're trying to have the webcam positioned right and the microphone positioned right. I would invite a friendly club member who's willing to come over your house despite the plague to come over and help you with those details, or recruit a teenager who is tech savvy or somebody else to keep an eye on that stuff so that you can concentrate on doing your speech if you're competing in the international speech contest or any other contest you might be holding and you're trying to do it online. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. I said that, but I'm about to show you some complexities here. This is an online voting tool that we cooked up. This goes back to when we held our first mini webinar contest at Online Presenters, which we're going to do again in a little while. So basically, it helps you do the math and rank the different speakers. And this is giving an automatic calculation of where they ranked, but the judge still chooses first, second, and third. Maybe some of those numbers don't really reflect how they felt. So I'm trying to model what we do in the paper process. What really matters is what 3 names you write down, and you're supposed to sign it. And the equivalent for signing here is checking the box and clicking submit. I did some work to try and make this mobile friendly, so that's what it looks like on my Android phone. And then there's a judging tool, or a chief judge vote counter tool, that is monitoring as those votes come in. And once all judges have voted and the timers report comes in, you pretty much have your score. Now I'm showing this pretty fast on screen. if you go to contest.toastmasters.org, you can try it out yourself, or at least try the judge's experience. And there's a link to a blog post that has a slower, more detailed version of the video demo. I'm told that I probably still need better documentation, which I'm sure is true, but I'm working on it. This is available for you to use. I tried to get a ruling from Toastmasters International on whether it was acceptable under their rules. And what they told me is that online voting is allowed. They won't endorse any specific software. So I would say that means that if this meets your standards, you think it'd be useful, it is available for you to use. And that is available at contest.toastmasters.org, independently of whether you set up a club website using my software, and it is available for free, at least for the time.
David?
Yes.
I have a lot of questions for you. Do you mind an interruption?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I can, I'll stop this for a minute.
Okay, all right. I'm going to just start with some of the questions dealing with contests, all right? And one of the questions was, how do I get these evaluation forms? Can I have an assistant for the contest, for the contestant, I think is what it was. And then how do I get this judging thing? Do I have to buy your software? Do I have to buy a subscription? What is that about?
Okay, so the judging and voting tool is free at contest.toastmasters.org. It is integrated into the WordPress for Toastmasters software. Now, WordPress for Toastmasters, even if you use the version of it that I host at my expense, it's free for a year. And it's $30 per year after that.
That's very generous. Thank you.
And the version of the judging tool that's built into that, the one advantage it has is that if people are signing up to compete using the agenda system, you can synchronize with that role for contestant. You can synchronize that with the judging form. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Otherwise, you type the names in, but it is a little bit more integrated. That's all.
Okay, and they were really curious how Gerald Ford could beat out Ronald Reagan. That was a very concerning point, and so I just thought I would share that.
He had a good day. He had a good. It all depends on the judges who are in that particular contest.
Oh, good. All right, and so can the contest chair, can they limit who sees the judges' sheets, right? Can you describe that a little bit more, that process?
Yeah, right. So, this may still need some refinement, but the way we set it up was that you create when you assign the judges, there's an individual link for that judge, and you send the judge that link. You can also set up a user account for them, and when you do that, they will get a notification through the system that tells them how to set their password and gives them, again, that custom link. So that's the concept behind it. So that only that judge can see their own ballot that they're going to fill out, and only a couple of authorized people, typically it would be the chief judge and the vote counters or ballot counters, would have access to that screen where you can see everything as it rolls in, all the votes that are rolling in.
I would like to say that you have a lot of district leaders on this call, on this meeting tonight, and I know that their eyebrows just went up when you said that, so they're very pleased to hear that. Just thought I would share that with you. I'm watching a few of them right now. So I did have another question. Let me page back up. We're getting a lot of chat going on today. Can you please explain the timer function specifically? How do you do it?
Okay, how do you do it?
Timing function.
Do you know if they're asking about contest or
it could be just in general, because I know it's quite similar both ways. I know we did talk about it.
I mean, you probably do it like you do it in your regular meetings, where you pull out your phone and you fire up the timer, and then so what Carol was demonstrating earlier is you can use that virtual screen feature and at the different timing marks, you can change from green to yellow to red. I think that's going to require some practice. So I think the first time you do it, you're probably going to be holding up those green, yellow, and red objects to the camera. Keep it simple at the beginning, definitely.
Yeah, one of my students was pulling up some Lysol wipes and some other things, but green, yellow, and red.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
we usually have some unintentional comedy where the timer doesn't show up and somebody gets drafted at the spur of the moment, and so they're, oh, do I have a book that's green? Yeah. So
yeah.
The other hilarious thing is when somebody is using the green screen effect and holds up a green object and you can see right through it. Or they're wearing green on their clothing someplace and you're seeing right through their
so all
body.
You see the talking head, literally the body. That's a whole nother level of performance. I think let's just focus on the non-green screen.
Yeah, we're actually not trying to scare anybody off. You don't have to do all this stuff at the beginning.
Okay, thank you so much, David. And I'm still trolling through the comments. Okay. We've had a lot of comments, and I will say I'm doing my best to try to pull out the ones that I'm trying to answer some of them, but I'm trying to also pull out some of the ones that would be appropriate to bring to you.
All right, let me try and move past this to, well, this was all I had, actually.
David, are these the two things that you were talking about earlier? You gave us a couple websites for the contest. Can you make sure that we get that information?
Okay, so what I wanted to drop that in the chat, but this address, davidfcarr.com/ImlineTM, that's kind of, a portal or a central place where I've tried to post links to everything else. And then the second link there would be the online presenters site, and then my LinkedIn profile, because again, I'll be very subtle, but you should all link in with me, and you should all send me business and job opportunities. So in case that wasn't clear earlier, so anyway, but I will somewhere around here. I think I can drop that into the chat. So if there are more questions, we can deal with them now. We were going to do at some point a brief table topics demo, calling on a few people who are here. We might ask for attendees who haven't done this stuff before to volunteer. So just type in the chat if you'd like to do a table topic.
We want to do a table topic, all right? Yeah. But while we're getting set up for that table topic, I had about two more questions. On the free software for Zoom, there were some comments going past the 40-minute mark. One is that no phones are now allowed on free Zoom. And then another one said, if you go past the 40-minute mark, that they're allowing you to go past the 40-minute mark at this time, I think is what it said. And then multiple clubs can share an account. That was a common question in chat. And there was a question also about calling capabilities. What is that about?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works on the free version. On the commercial ones, there is an option for you to use to call in if you can't be at a computer, or to call in and use the phone rather than the computer microphone and speakers. Mm-hmm. And possibly that's not available in the free version. I don't actually know.
Is there a limit to the number of meetings per month on Zoom?
There's no limit to the number of meetings, and the free account supports up to 100 simultaneous participants. So, wow. I mean, again, so I said earlier, I don't 100% trust that thing where they're not enforcing the 40 minutes until they announce it publicly. I wouldn't assume that it's going to happen every time. Mm-hmm. If it does, great, but if not, tell your members, if we get cut off here in the next few minutes, please, rejoin, and we'll fire it up again. And I understand from what I understand, the link can remain the same. you still can have one single link that you use for all your meetings. Zoom will allow you to set up different links for every scheduled meeting, but I think it's a lot more convenient to just let everybody know the link and that it stays the same from week to week for club meetings, certainly.
David, one more question before we head over to the table topics. What about the audio sound? I know I have some people online that are really careful about the audio sound. Do we really need a headset? Thank you.
The answer is it depends. If you have a good quiet place and the mic in your speakers are good, often the noise canceling qualities are actually pretty good. So no, you don't absolutely need it. I certainly wouldn't tell everybody who's just starting out that they need that. I mean, I guess if you think of it, one of the things the mic and speakers do prevent is audio feedback. So for that it's helpful, but it's not absolutely essential.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Let's head over to table topics then.
Let's see, is Mike Woodall here? Mike was going to be my topics master, if I recall right.
There's a question about what types of headsets are best. We have Jeff Sobel and Jenna Lee Taylor on the call. I'm sure they'd be happy to help out if Mike's not here.
Yeah, how about we ask Jenna Lee to be our table topics master, and
Jenna Lee, you ready to do that? I know it's spur of the moment.
Why don't we give you a few minutes and maybe we can answer some other questions if there are other questions.
Okay.
Give me approximately 2.5 seconds and I already have something in mind.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
You might get drafted to do double duty as timer because I think my timer.
Jeff
was
is
not
timer.
here.
I'm making Jeff. That's my executive
Okay.
timer.
Oh, Jeff.
Excellent.
Good job. Good job.
All right. Well, the thought was mostly that it would maybe be good for a few people, particularly who haven't tried this before, to get a little taste of the experience. So it sounds like you guys are going to manage it. I'm going to mute myself and
Okay.
let you deal with that for a few minutes, and I'll be back when you need me.
Okay, thank you, David. Well, Jenna Lee's setting up. I will answer a few more questions.
Okay.
David Young from District 10 has asked, how do you conduct polling or voting for the best speech, table topics, and evaluators? And let me tell you, David, that one of the ways we found was that we actually have an official vote counter in our club, and that it's a new position, and that person receives the votes. You send it through private chat. And if you want to test private chat, you can send it to me, and hopefully I don't have time to answer it. Let me just tell you that. But maybe you send a private chat to a friend and say, I'm testing this. Did you get it? And anyway, so you'll get that private chat goes off to the vote counter. The vote counter counts it and tabulates it, and then comes back at the end of the meeting and announces the winner. Now, if you happen to be in Florida, Florida is known for not having ethical vote counters, and so you have to be careful of that. David, I'm just teasing you, and Jim Barber, you're the one that gave me the idea.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I'm just teasing the people from South Florida that have joined this meeting to help. All right. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Let's see. Paging down. Got a lot of people saying, "Ooh, how do I add the picture to my name?" All right. So this is where we go to. Right.
Oh, when you turn your camera off, you mean?
Yeah. How do I put the picture instead of my actual visual?
Yeah, that's in the Zoom
Video
software.
settings?
Yeah, in the Zoom software settings for the settings for the actual little desktop app. So you can actually open it when you're not in a meeting, and you add your photo to that. I think you wind up setting one of these free accounts to add your picture. But
wonderful. And then we've got somebody from Cincinnati who wants to make sure that we don't count them. No, I'm teasing. All right, so let's see. Billin is from Cincinnati, and he says, not sure what you're in Region 6, Billin. And let's see, can we use a pollmaker.com on this? David, what's your thought on that?
I didn't hear. What.com?
Pollmaker.com. Are you familiar with that? Poll, P-O-L-L?
I'm not familiar with it. I do know that TI publicized the list of a few different polling and voting software solutions the other day. I think that was more for the purposes of district meetings and things like that.
Okay.
So I
All right.
actually have no information for you.
Lois, I want to tell you I got your private chat. Now, I also had a request here in Zoom Pro. It's another request. It's a statement. In Zoom Pro, you can type up a poll and provide it to the audience to fill out that automatically tabulates. Oh, that's nice.
Right.
And so
I think you might not want to use that for example, you probably wouldn't want to use that as for a contest because it would show the results publicly, maybe before you're ready to announce them.
Okay, and that goes to the...
Yeah, for more informal thing, like if a speaker wants to take a poll in the middle of their presentation, then that would be, a nice tool to use.
Yeah, and so that goes to this other point, which is testing. Make sure you test before you host. All right, and then Perry wants me to know that I am the best table topic speaker. Thank you, Perry. I love you. All right, you're awesome. All right. Jenna Lee, are you ready?
I am. Carol, I will ask you to select the speakers for me.
All right.
And Jeff will be our timer, and I will give the individual topics. So to lead in to the topics, right now, obviously, we are in a time where it's a little uncertain. There's a little bit of confusion. So we need reason to celebrate. Anyone who is in my home club has heard this topic before. So I have pulled up the month of March, and for every day in March, there is maybe a weird, unusual holiday associated with it. So you give me a day, and I will tell you what holiday it is that you are celebrating, and you get to tell me how you are celebrating that day in March. So Carol, please select our first participant and they can give me a day and I will give them their holiday.
I would like it to be David Mayo. David, are you willing to participate? I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You're now unmuted. Go ahead and give it a shot.
Okay. Yes, I can participate.
Good. David, would you turn on your video? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
I would love to see you. There you are. Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, David. What district are you from, David?
10.
Welcome.
Yay!
Oh, you know Jenna Lee then.
David, what day would you like to celebrate?
Hey, before we get going, I just want to make sure people know that that David knows I'm the timer. If he wants to see my timing signals, he might want to pin me.
Okay. And
find my photo, and there should be a little, when you hover over it, there should be a little ellipsis there. Click on that and say pin video. Choose pin video.
Okay, and your name is?
David, I'm sorry, Jeff Sobel. I got David in my brain. Jeff Sobel. And when he speaks, he should come up on the screen for you.
Hi, David.
He was on the screen.
Here I am. Hi.
When he speaks, he comes up.
Okay. But I should be able, you're saying in the...
If you pin me, you'll be able to see my green signal.
Brontosaurus Rex.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Now I found. Okay, you're pinned.
Perfect. Okay, what day would you like to celebrate?
Let's see, March 24th.
March 24th. Okay, on March 24th, we are celebrating National Chocolate Covered Raisin Day.
National Chocolate Covered Raisin Day. That sounds like something that is made for the movies, the movie theaters, because most of the chocolate covered raisins I've had have been in those big boxes that come in the concession stands at the theater. Of course, they have a brand name that we'll avoid mentioning to avoid offending anybody, but It starts with raisins and it sounds little. So I also then think about not only the theater, but the kinds of movies, the kinds of ones where we ate junk food, which basically goes back to high school, because older we knew better and younger we had parents with us. So I think that those remind me of times with friends and times of movies at an age that maybe I don't quite want to admit to when they were. So that's kind of what I have for chocolate covered raisins. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All
Okay.
right. Our
Who's
next
our
tip.
next
You ready?
Yep.
All right. Our next table topic contestant is Exec 408 VPE. Are you willing to participate in table topics? Look at that great smile.
Yes.
All right. Welcome. Please tell us your name. Oh, it's Andrea Wells. All right.
Yes.
Welcome, Andrea. And what district
Hi.
are you with?
District 10.
Oh, no. Are you kidding? I'm asking another person for District 10?
Yay,
All right, we got to get some better
representing tonight.
Woohoo! Apparently, District 10 got the message. Very good.
Andrea, what day do you want to celebrate?
I will take March 16th.
March 16th. Okay. You have a couple of options here, but I'm going to choose one for you because I have that right as Table Topics Master.
Okay.
You are celebrating on March 16th. Everything you do is right day.
That is awesome. Well, I'll just tell you, that's kind of like my life for the year, because everything I always do is right. You know, from the moment I get up, whatever I decide I'm going to have for breakfast, you know, if I'm going to make something my mom for breakfast, she's going to have the same thing. And of course, it's going to be a fabulous meal. Everything I do at work is correct, whether it's right or not. You know, everyone on my team has to agree with everything I do because I'm fabulous. And when it comes to coming home, making dinner, of course, it's a fabulous meal. Whatever in the world that I decide to make, of course, my mom is going to enjoy it. It's going to be written up and photographed and on Instagram, and it's going to get thousands and thousands of likes because everything I do is always right anyway. So everyone will just enjoy, and it will be something that people will hear about for years to come. Possibly might even become a speech that I give at the International Speech Competition and make me world champion of public speaking because everything I do is right. Thank you very much. Mic drop.
Yay! Wonderful. Thank
All right.
you.
No bashfulness there. All right. Nice job. Our next contestant is Elizabeth Keeling. Elizabeth, are you willing to participate? You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sure,
Oh,
I
hello.
will participate. Hi,
Awesome.
What
Hi.
district are you with, Elizabeth?
I'm with District 53.
Oh, 53. Well, that's not in Region 6. What region are you in?
I don't know my region number.
Okay, what state are you in? Or
She's in
province?
region 9, Carol.
Yay!
Region 9. Oh no, a transplant. We accept
She
you too.
she might be somebody I know.
Yeah,
Oh really? Well, welcome. It's a pleasure having you
Glad
on,
to have
Elizabeth.
you.
thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth, what day are you celebrating?
I'm going to celebrate March 1st.
March 1st. Let's see. On March 1st, you get to celebrate World Compliment Day.
World Compliment Day. That's a great day. I think we all should give more compliments in life, especially to our fellow Toastmasters. I think this is crucial when we're giving our evaluations to compliment the speakers on things that they did well in their speeches. You can compliment somebody in so many different ways. You can compliment them on the content of their speech. You can compliment them on the organization of their speech, their speaking style, their body language, their eye contact. There's so many things you can compliment them on. in your personal life or your day-to-day job, you can compliment a colleague on a task well done. You can compliment a family member on a meal that they made great. I'm going to piggyback on the last speaker. I got a compliment tonight from my husband on the dinner I cooked, which was a traditional goulash dish, something quick and easy, but it's a family favorite here. So overall, I think compliments can be given both to your fellow Toastmasters, to your colleagues, to your family, and really anyone in your life, to just give them a smile on their face for that day. Thank you.
Yay!
Yay!
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, our next table topic contestant, Lisa Walkus. And I have to say, I'm a little biased. She's one of my mentors. So I'd like to introduce you to her. Thank you, Lisa. Are you willing to participate tonight?
Sure, Carol.
All right, thank you.
We're going to.
What
Lisa,
day would you like to celebrate?
I would like to celebrate. Can I pick a day in another month, or do I have to pick a March day?
It may take me a second to get to another month, but I'm
Well, that's
sure
okay. That's okay. Let's pick
Lisa-
March 6th.
March
Lisa,
6th.
don't forget to pin me.
Oh, I have you right there, Jeff. I see you.
It's like we're in high school again, you know?
Yeah. And we were doing these last night. These things for mine, you know.
Yeah,
Our
my family
meeting.
cards are in the other room, but I found my
I
brontosaurus.
saw that. That's great.
And remember, you don't have to stick with the topic I give you, so you can totally do. I didn't say that out loud. Okay, your date, March 6th, is Frozen Food Day.
Frozen food. All right. Frozen Food Day. Frozen Food Day is a wonderful day, especially if you have a company called Schwan. Has anybody ever seen those big yellow trucks that people are driving around? The funny thing about Schwan is when I lived up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, because I'm from District 62, we used to have a Schwan man come to our house. And of course, everybody got to know him as the Schwan man. Well, then I moved down to Dowagiac, and my brother loves to order stuff from the Schwan man. However, sometimes the Schwan man is a Schwan woman. And they just have a lot of really good choices. Now, sometimes I tend to think that, okay, maybe it might be a little on the expensive side, but now, especially with so much of the people that are wanting to distance ourselves and stuff and not be in big crowds and stuff, this might be an option for people to choose by having frozen meals. I actually just had a frozen meal from the Schwan company tonight. It was called broccoli something or other, and it was actually pretty good. I take frozen broccoli and add it to the meal, and it has a little pouch that you put in water, and then you also add rice, and it makes a very nice meal. So definitely like the frozen dinner day.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yay. How much time do I have? David?
David, how much time do we have for table topics?
Yes. What point do I need to wrap things up?
Yeah, I was thinking 3 probably was enough as a quick demo.
Oh.
You one more?
One more. Let's
go
do
for
one
one more.
I have like
Okay.
25 people that volunteered for this.
Okay.
This is hard. All right. But before I do that, well, okay, one more, and then we're going to switch over to more questions. Okay. If that's okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead, and one of the people that volunteered for it is, hold on. Where did they go? Here. Joyce. Jois. Joyce, you're up next.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
I was trying the virtual background and kind of made it work.
Okay. What district are you from?
District 7,
District 7. And what day would you like to celebrate?
March 28th.
March 20th. That's a day away from my birthday. You almost got an extra gold star, but I guess you can keep the 28th. The 28th is, it is Weed Appreciation Day. So not a flower, but like a dandelion. You have to appreciate dandelions.
No, not that kind
Yes.
of weed, the other weed.
You have to appreciate dandelions, Jeff. It's in March.
Okay.
It says
What
weed.
you said, it's Weed Appreciation Day. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Mhm.
Just a light bulb went off when you said Weed Appreciation Day.
No, it's like the flowers.
As a kid, I think I've played with dandelions a lot. You run around, pick them up, and blow on the little dandelions and watch them fly around. Oh, that is so much fun. So if I get an entire day to appreciate it, I would run around in the fields. Well, not right now, but if I could, just run around, pick up all of them, just blow them all over my friends. Some of them would start sneezing, I know that, but I would have a fantastic time. I would also love to have a flower appreciation day if that's part of it. Just love the colors, the sunshine, the spring time for March. And I think just appreciating all the beauty that's out there in nature. That is what I would do on the same Weed Appreciation Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was lovely, but I'm still trying to figure out how we get all these people from other districts coming on. How the word got out.
Shared it with all of our Toastmaster family.
Yeah, no, this is fine. I'm actually pretty cool with it. All right, I'm going to go back to some questions that we had during this period of time. One of them was, Jeff, we want to know what yellow and red was. We saw the green dinosaur and the Brontosaurus Rex, and we just loved it. What was the yellow and the red? Very important question. It came up several times.
I was looking at my desk trying to scramble because my timing cards are in another room. And the green was the most creative because this Brontosaurus is actually from the 1963-64 World's Fair. This is a gift I got as a little tiny kid. And
all right. So yellow and red is
yellow and red are not as creative. I found some Post-it notes that I was going to hold up, I had a book from my visit to District 28. I was going to hold this up for
and
red.
we have a bunch of people on from District 28 tonight. So giving them kudos here. Very good.
Those were good, clear colors. So
that was my goal. Yes.
And now on to the next question. We would like the first one is, this came up a lot, was how do I pin a video? Can you guide us to do that?
Okay, so I mentioned the little, if you hover your mouse over anybody's picture, there's a little menu with 3 dots that appears there, and pin video is one of the options on that list.
Okay, so if I have, let's see, the latest count was 200, and the highest count was 277 people on tonight. With that high count, how am I supposed to find somebody?
Well, that could be a bit of a challenge. Let's see, you can also bring up the participants panel, and at that there is something where you can type in somebody's name.
Oh,
So that,
okay.
That's a good way of narrowing down the list.
Okay, I actually see it. I did do a typing on that at one point tonight.
And you can use that to send a chat. You know, one of the options that appears there is to send them a chat message as well. So. Okay,
and Betty Ann, it's the 3 dots. When you hover over a person's picture, you should see 3 dots coming up on the right side, upper right side of the diagram of the picture. The second question was, do you have any headphones that you would recommend to us if we are shopping for headphones?
I don't know whether I should position myself as somebody being offering professional reviews. I'm using Sensor Tower. Yeah. SENNH.
Oh yeah,
anyway,
that's a good company. It is a good company.
Sensor Tower. Anyways, so it's USB headphones. So there's a little USB that plugs into the side of my computer. It's wireless. As long as the batteries hold out, it does pretty well. So yeah,
they would love to have the spelling at some point during the chat. If you could.
All right. Well,
chat.
I'll attempt.
It's actually a fairly big name, and I think it's pronounced Seinhauer or something like that. I'm not remembering exactly how to spell it. It's a fairly big name, though, if you start searching on it. And then one of the other questions was regarding security. How do we make sure that this connection is secure?
Zoom has a pretty good reputation for security in terms of the actual transmission of data back and 4th. I don't know what kind of security you're thinking you need.
I didn't
here.
write down her name, and the chat
Yeah.
has been fast and furious tonight.
Well,
So
if whoever it is wants to unmute and ask me a more specific question.
Mhm. Actually, I wouldn't mind having people do that now if it's one at a time. Maybe is, hold on, let me go back down here. Oh, somebody wrote down Sennheiser. It's Sennheiser.
All right,
And then-
I would have found it eventually, but
Yeah, I know.
but you know, I would just look. I look on
Okay.
Amazon. I'd look at what seems to have a bunch of stars and fewer complaints, and figure it out from there.
Okay, and somebody else was mentioning Logitech and MPOW are also decent headsets at moderate prices. And that is also, I believe that person is from District 62, Law of Attraction Club.
Right, and again, don't feel like you have to absolutely have to have that equipment, but
Yeah.
if you find it helpful.
And Perry says the Russians are listening, if not the Ukrainians. We have a lot of humor too, so it's been hard to.
I guess I would want to have pretty good security for the password that you use for your Zoom account.
Definitely.
So don't just email that around. That's one of the
Mhm.
reasons I mentioned the host code. Is that is a more low risk thing to share where they can't get in and mess up your whole account.
Okay, and somebody wants to know, how do you raise your hand in the Zoom? And then there's another question about passwords. Do we want our meetings to actually have passwords?
Let's yeah, I would say no. But, I mean, we've never done it for online presenters. I don't think we'll do it for my home club that is going online. You know, I guess
I haven't found it helpful.
I mean, I guess the one thing we do at online presenters is we don't post the link publicly on the website. If you register as a guest, you'll get that link as part of the confirmation message. But we do that, I think, probably less because of we think Russian hackers are going to join our meeting, that we want to know who's joining us as a guest so that we can follow up with them. That's really what that's for. So
is it a concern if your club does post the website online? Because I did that for my club just the other day, and I also posted it out on Facebook saying, join us, join us.
Yeah, I mean, it is a matter of personal taste or club taste, what you do. So I am, so again, my home club is not used to doing all this online stuff. So for them, I want to make it as easy as possible for them to find the link. So yeah, we're putting it out publicly. And you know, if Russians show up at our meeting, we'll give them table topics. They won't
Well,
come
I
back.
would like to just put a plug here for both Russia and Ukrainian. They both have Toastmaster clubs. So if you happen to be in Russia or Ukrainian.
I'm sorry. Sorry for the horrible bigoted comment, but yeah.
No, our media has been pretty rough on them, and maybe there's been some good reason for it. But anyway, we do have Toastmaster clubs there. All right, with that, we did have a couple people ask, how do I get a recording of that? And the answer is Jenna Lee and Jeff Sobel, the region advisors for Region 6, will be sending it out. If you would like a copy and you're not from Region 6, Jenna Lee, what do you suggest?
Your region advisors will still send it out. Now we will. I will share my email address in the chat in just a couple of seconds here. If anyone is not a member of Region 6, please put my email address down, reach out to me, and I will get you a copy of the recording as soon as it is available.
We also had some really good chat. Should we be saving that chat? Do we save it ourselves, or are you going to save that for us?
Well, it's good to tell people how they can save it themselves. If you go into the chat panel, there's another one of those little 3-dot menus to right adjacent to where you would type your message. And one of the options under there is Save Chat. That'll just save it as a text file to your computer. So if something scrolled by that was an important link or something that you want to have for later, that's a good thing to do. If you record your meetings, it can be set up to also save a copy of the chat to the folder on your computer, or in the paid versions, you can save to the cloud the recording, which is what I usually do. That has a few extra benefits. For example, it shares both a gallery view version and a speaker view version. And so if you're trying to get fancy to splice together, say a special workshop presentation, something that was high value and is worth spending some extra time on, you actually could splice bits and pieces of those together if you know a little bit of video editing.
I want to add something from PJ Kleffner, who posted, he's from District 7, which is a wonderful mid-Atlantic area. And he said there's something to think about with security, and that is, he recently read that there's a lot of trolls happening now, and they're bombing Zoom meetings and sharing their screen to show pornographic material along with other things. And so we need to be careful that one of the default settings you can adjust is the screen sharing. So only allow the host or people that are, there's a way to set up the screen sharing that allows them to only have one person at a time with screen sharing. So you want to set that up and protect your club from that sort of behavior. I'm sorry to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that might be a reason why maybe you don't want to post the link publicly on your website. I think the I haven't used that particular setting, but I'd just be concerned. You want to be able to allow everybody who's speaking to have full participation. So experiment with that a little bit before you turn it on.
I have a correction. I was thinking Region 7. It's District 7, which is over on the other side of the coast, up in the Oregon area. My apologies. I had a whole bunch of chat on that, correcting me. So, David, I am all set with the questions. I know there was a lot of questions, but I'm just going to say I'm all set with the questions.
We did table topics earlier. I don't think we got a timers report about whether they were on time, which we would normally ask for. And we do also have a vote counter who was prepared to tally up the votes, if you remember.
I've got a timers report if you want it.
Sure.
Let's see. So David Mayo, this is a 1 to 2 minute table topics. David Mayo spoke for 1 minute 19 seconds. Andrea Wells spoke for 1 minute 2 seconds. Liz Keeling spoke for 1 minute 9 seconds. Lisa Wallace, 1 minute 18 seconds. And Joyce, I did not get your last name, I'm sorry, spoke for 1 minute 6 seconds.
Okay. I was going to ask for a vote, but it looks like my vote counter may have had to drop off. So, and I think we're doing it just for fun anyway, so we won't worry about that for right now. I thought maybe we should say a few words before we wrap up. I don't want to keep you here all night, but about some of the techniques that we talk about how you make your online presentation more effective. One of the big ones is eye contact, or actually what you're trying to do is maintain the illusion of eye contact. I'm trying to do it right now by looking at the camera, because if I look down at somebody's face, you'll see me looking down. So it's kind of an unnatural act, because the laptop image, or whatever device you're using, there's a little bit of parallax there between where the camera is and where the image of that person's nose is. So I find that I can't do it throughout the entire meeting, but the advice would be, if you're trying to give an effective, inspirational, persuasive speech, when you get to the part that you really want to punch your point, look directly into the camera. Carol, maybe you have some other tips that you'd like to share. What have you found works for you?
One of the things, I'm teaching my students now how to work with online. So the first thing I did was teach them how to put their name up there, how to use the microphone, and then working with them to present effectively. And so that includes things like staying in frame. So are they in the frame? And I'm finding myself tonight, I'm a little close to the camera, so you're seeing only part of the top of my head.
Right.
You're not seeing part of my top of the head because it's getting cut off. So these are
Right.
things that I start right out with in terms of what I'm teaching my students. The next thing is controlling the room, and that requires a couple people. David mentioned a bunch of different roles that we don't normally have in a normal Toastmaster club. The chat monitor, the watcher, and the vote counter. All right, these are people that we don't normally have, but we want to add them to our agenda and make sure that we have these roles filled to help be successful in our club meeting. When we're practicing with our speech, do practice some movement, whether it be with our hands. Make sure you're in the box, looking at the eye. David already talked about eye contact, but with glasses, be really careful. I had a lot of feedback from my club about my glare. And so I had a different set of glasses. I went out and bought a glare resistant pair. And then immediately I started getting feedback that I still had glare. So I said, okay, I can't do anything about that. I just bought a pair of non-glare resistant glasses. But the lighting that was mentioned earlier, just having lighting in front of you, maybe on one of each side. So you have, I saw some of my students today, they only had part of their face lit up. The other part was
Right.
away from the window. So these are things that we're paying attention to. Pause as you would with a normal speech. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. You're going to get through this just fine. You're going to be fine. And part of this is just to reassure you. I will say that most people, after they finish their first online meeting, say, wow, that went really well. It's because you have a few of you helping to be successful. Chat monitor matters and so forth. So all of this matters. All right. Thank you. I'm going to pass it back to you, David.
All right, thanks. I think the other thing you see often when people join from the first time is they will have the webcam angled in some inappropriate way. You'll only see part of their face, that kind of thing. Or I often see people who are sitting way back. I mean, I guess they're comfortable, but it doesn't make them look very engaged. So, try and sit up, look into the camera, look like you care about what's going on there. One of the other sessions I did, people asked me, what do you do about people being multitasking, being distracted? And I think the best advice is you need to run a really engaging meeting where people don't want to miss a second of it, right? So that's what you can all work on. I know you all have those skills. I wanted to ask, let's see, is Jim Barber, I think, had to leave. So I was going to ask him if you had tips. But otherwise, I think maybe we can start to wrap this up. But
right. Before you do, I had a question from Sharon. She's asking, how do you actually do the voting? Because she didn't get to see that happen. All right. So I just want to guide Sharon. Sharon, if I set you up to be the vote counter, are you ready to handle it? And I don't see a last name with Sharon, so it's just a Sharon. And if you're ready to handle it, then
yes, I'm ready to try. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, Sharon, if you're the vote counter and we are voting for the best table topics person today, and can I have the names again? Who was David? You had the list of names, right?
I got it, Carol.
Oh, Jeff, great.
I'll give first names: David, Andrea, Liz, Lisa, and Joyce.
Okay, so we had 5 table topic speakers, and I know it's not immediately after they spoke. It's really better if we do it before they speak, but you think about what they spoke about and who was the best, and then you would send it to your vote counter. In this case, it would be somebody, it's Sharon, and you send it to her in a private chat. So how do you do that? You have on your chat feature, you have a to, and usually comes up as everyone, to everyone. Instead, you say, no, I want to go to Sharon. And so you're going to look for, she starts with an S, so we're going to page all the way down to S. All right, Sharon, where are you? There you are. And she just has the name Sharon. Oh, I see somebody with Sharon last name. So is it Sharon Stuttle?
No, I don't have a last name.
Yeah, I thought so, but that's the only Sharon I see.
okay, if you click at the top of that drop-down list,
and type in Sharon.
Type in Sharon.
Oh, that's another way to find it. Very good. So then we would all send you private chats and say, this is who we vote for. And then you would accumulate it up and come back with, the winner tonight is, ta-da! How's that? Okay, Sharon?
Okay, thank you.
All right. David, back to you.
All right. And that's one of the reasons why we often tell people to change their on-screen name to have their role in it, particularly if it's something like vote counter, where people need to find you on the list easily. Okay. But I think that covers it. Maybe I was just going to show this one more time. So davidfcarr.com /TM is where I've posted sort of a roundup of a bunch of different resources. And I will post that in the chat one more time. Again, you might want to save the chat if that would be useful. And we will be sharing a recording of this so that if there was some good stuff here or things that you need to go back, you can give me an eye counters report. I'm typically the winner in any club that I'm a member of, and on Oz. I don't know how I did tonight. Usually when I do really badly, I don't know it until somebody tells me the eye counters report.
David, you did just fine with your and
okay.
You're right. Getting better over time.
Maybe because it didn't count, I did okay. But
maybe.
All right.
We're still getting questions, and so my thought is, if you still have questions, David, is it okay if they email you directly?
Sure. Again,
okay.
it's or connect with me on LinkedIn. I was promoting connecting
so
on
David
LinkedIn.
F. Carr, he's
David, if you search David F. Carr on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, you'll find me. There's also davidfcarr.com, which was where that one link I showed. So I have a vanity website that collects together a bunch of things I do.
And he's also from South Florida, and that's another way to search on him and find him.
All right, so I'm not too hard to find.
David, is this yours?
I'm sorry?
Is this your screen?
No, but it looks like someone else started sharing their screen.
Oh, Jerry Conrad. Jerry, welcome.
Yeah.
Hoping calendar. We need this calendar.